Okay, the masked professor is on the air once more. And he needs to call into Zoom. Come on and Zoom, 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 and Zoom. Come on and Zoom, 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 Zoom.
You have not entered any numbers. Please re-enter your meeting ID, followed by pound.
All right. 160 8271 8158.
Enter your participant ID, followed by pound. Otherwise, you are in the meeting now. You are the first participant. Please stand by.
Hooray for my participation. Oh, wait. There we go. Okay, well, I guess this is it for today's exciting class. Maybe we'll get more people, maybe we won't. All right, so this is chapter 10, being an effective project manager. Of course, our diagram of where we are in the course of this course, the course. All right, so understanding the difference between leading and managing, understanding how to manage our project stakeholders, being able to understand and apply different influence currencies and build positive relationships with others, creating a stakeholder map and developing strategies for managing our project dependencies, understand why we have an interactive management style on projects, effectively managing project expectations, developing strategies for managing upward relations, and understanding the importance of building trust and acting in an ethical manner while working on a project. And we want to be able to identify the qualities of an effective project manager. All right, so these nine learning objectives within this chapter, and they match up to our seven sections within this chapter. All right, so let's talk about managing versus leading. All right, so when we're talking about managing is a process of coping with the complexity of the projects that we are dealing with. So we have to be able to formulate plans and objectives. We have to be able to monitor results. We have to be able to take corrective action. We have to be able to expedite activities. We have to be able to solve the technical problems. Serve as a peacemaker, which can be an exciting role for a project manager. And we have to make trade-offs between the time, costs, and our project scope. All right, when we're leading, we're coping with the changes that inevitably come. We must always remember, change is a part of life. So we have to see that there is a need to change to keep the project on track. Things rarely are going to go perfectly down the line exactly the way we want them. And we need to be able to recognize when sticking to the course is the correct way to handle that, and when changing our attack is going to be more fruitful. We're often going to have to initiate change. So within that, we're going to have to provide the direction and motivation that our project employees need. We're going to have to be able to innovate and adapt as necessary, and integrate the assigned resources that we have into our project plans and then our revised project plans as we confront change. All right, so some maxims from project management. You can't do it all and get it all done. This reminds me very much of the Tao of leadership. When the leader does everything, nothing is done. When the leader does nothing, everything is done. So our projects involve a big web of relationships. One thing that one of my mentors used to say is that it's all about relationships. Doing hands-on work is not the same as leading. Again, if the manager is doing, then we often have the problem that everyone is watching the manager doing and not doing themselves. And thank Dog, one of my favorite students, has shown up. I'm counting on her to ask many questions today.
Yes, I am here.
So they summarize that hands-on work is not the same as leading by saying more pressure and more involvement can reduce the effectiveness of a leader. There's an extent to which you have to be willing to get in there and get your hands dirty to get the job done. Sometimes you need that to do that to be inspirational for your employees, right? Not because you necessarily can do something better than the others, but to show them that you're willing to get in there, that their job is so important you're willing to do it. What's important to you likely isn't as important to someone else. That is very often true. And sometimes we end up with very strange situations in project management because the manager thinks something is very, very important when in fact it may have a very small importance or even almost no importance against the grand sweep of the project. So our different groups have different stakes, responsibilities, different agendas, different priorities within the context of finishing the project. Remember, project management is tough, exciting, and rewarding. Endeavor to persevere. Okay, well, that seems like a bit more of a rah-rah kind of a statement than necessarily useful advice. But perseverance means everything. Somebody once asked Edison how he was coming with making the light bulb. And he says, well, I found 10,000 ways that don't work. Right, obviously, eventually he found a way that works. And it took approximately 100 years for somebody to find some other stuff that worked in the context of light bulbs. All right, so the people that have a stake in your project, it's going to be an entire web of stakeholders. You're here at the center as the project manager. Your team is gathered around you working on your project. But we're going to have relationships that go outside the team, even outside our organization. So you're going to have relationships with other project managers. You're going to have relationships with functional managers. You're going to have relationships with project sponsors and with top management. There's going to be relationships between the project and the customers, between the project and other organizations, between our project and contractors, possibly even between our project and government agencies, and we are going to be relying on some amount of administrative support within our company or organization. And you, as the project manager, are going to have to handle all of that. Some of this can be laid off to an extent on team leaders, your project sponsor, and others, but you're going to have a central role in making all of these relationships work, and as a result, making your project work.
So you're kind of like the glue that holds everything together.
Well, yeah. I mean, my philosophy is I want to be on friendly relations with everybody. All the way from the custodians to the president of the company or the chairman of the board, whatever. Because you can never tell when you're going to need that relationship to forward part of the project. All right. So, everybody has some amount of influence. And that influence can be a good influence. You have a good relationship with somebody, you can go to them and say, look, Steve, could you help me out? I've got this problem, and if you could spare me somebody who can help me through it, or some resource to get through this quickly, I would really appreciate it. Now, you can also have negative influence, where you go to Steve, and Steve, he's hated you from 3 projects ago already. And you're trying to ask for help, and he's like, oh no, can't do it. Sorry, can't do it. All right, so in our idea of influence as exchange, we have the law of reciprocity. One good deed deserves another, and likewise one bad deed deserves another. So, there's an old saying, the fastest way to make a friend is ask for a favor. Personally, I always believe in helping out people as much as possible. Sometimes they ask you for something that you just can't give them. You don't have it. You can't spare the time right at that time. Whatever. But always try and help people out. Uh-oh. All right, is the computer frozen? Well, that's interesting. Something's happening. Exactly what's happening, I'm not sure.
Did it just stop?
It doesn't seem to be doing anything. All right, let's give this another shot here. All right, so, what a relief.
Yay.
Then there is quid pro quo. In other words, this for that, from the Latin. So mutual exchanges of resources, services, referred to often as back scratching. Build your relationships. Start building relationships before you need them. Because if you kind of ignore somebody and then one day you show up at their door asking for a favor, everybody's going to know what's going on there, right? But if this is somebody you've taken the time to learn about them, to help them in situations in the past, they're going to be sympathetic to helping you. And then Cohen and Bradford started talking about the idea of influence currencies. In other words, that cooperative relationships are built on exchange of organizational currencies, which are favors back and forth. I thought the Bradford exchange was more of a place to sell painted plates with Elvis on them or something. But, okay, whatever, man. All right, so organizational currencies, we have task-related currencies where resources are given back and forth, lending or giving money, budget increases, personnel, etc., giving them time in the lab or in your shop.
So you can actually lend personnel, one of your resources, say to another project in your own organization. Say, I know that you're doing this project, but I really need Judith to help me out. In place of Judith, I can send Rebecca. She's good on her feet. I just need Judith for her typing skills.
Sure. This is very common in a lot of organizations. For example, back in the day when I was site manager for the Texas A&M project at the Corpus Christi Army Depot, once I got to know a bunch of people, sometimes one of them would come and say, look, we're having a problem with such and such. Is there something y'all could do to help us out? And I would say, yeah, I tell you what, I'll send a couple of my junior engineers around. They can study the problem and give some recommendations on how this could be solved.
Yeah.
Right? Well, that was kind of our job anyway, so it's not like I was doing a huge favor. But once I got known as somebody who would help you out with projects and things that you might be having problems with, that really increased the amount of influence that we had around the depot.
And it's all positive? Because I know that sometimes in some situations when you tend to help someone, they I don't know how you say, they tend to ask you for help every time they get stuck. And
Right.
And it's like, okay, I helped you the first couple of times, but you really need to get this down, or you really need to understand where you're at. I mean, you don't even know where you're at. So, my question is, was all those positive for you, like the lending of resources of personnel? Was it all positive, or was some of it negative?
Well, occasionally we'd have negative experiences. There were people that were prejudiced against us because we were contractors, and we were trying to help make things better there as much as anybody else, but they already had it in their heads that contractors weren't good, and sometimes we'd give help and something would still kind of go south on us. That's kind of the nature of life in the big city, if I may so describe it. And there are people that never seem to catch up with what they're doing or what they can do, that are in a perpetual state of disability, if I may so describe it. That your brother-in-law that borrows $5 from you every time he sees you, right? You got to do this and that. Okay, here you go, kind of thing. But we're. I don't know. It's the old "you can get more flies with honey" kind of idea. That you want to do your best to help people out and build a reputation for helpfulness and ability to help people out. I mean, in my estimation, that always ends up paying off.
I see.
All right, so we can give them assistance, helping with projects that they're doing, or undertaking unwanted tasks. Parkinson says the manager has to do the job that's left over.
Kind of sounds like.
Well, there's always employees that they're like, oh, I just can't do it. I can't figure it out. And at some point, you just say, all right, don't worry, go get this done. I'll take care of this. If for no other reason than because you're already tired of hearing their whining. Cooperation, give task support, give a better response time, aid in implementation. Really, all of these come down to the same thing.
Yeah.
Helping people out that need some help. And information is the easiest currency of all. Because, look, when people are in an organization, most organizations, particularly bad ones, operate on two levels. Right up here is the theoretical, this is how our organization works, and these are the procedures. And then down here is how we actually get things done. Right? So people read the employee handbook, the policies and procedures, And, right, so they know this part. But very often they don't know how we actually get it done on the
Or
ground.
they don't understand.
Right. They don't know, hey, if you go talk to the boss's secretary and you ask her about her kids, then then she'll help you out. Right?
Yeah.
Something very simple. My hometown is a tiny little place called Breckenridge, Texas. In Breckenridge, if you want to get something done in the city and county government, because it's the county seat, you go to Dairy Queen at 6:30 or 7 in the morning, and you talk to the secretaries who are all there having breakfast with each other. They're the people who can actually make things happen.
Yeah.
The fact that we have all these managers and people with formal titles, they're not the ones pushing the paper around.
Yeah. I understand it. Kind of like how nurses and doctors are. I mean, doctors know a lot, but they don't know half as much as the nursing staff does. So getting good with the nurses, then you're pretty much good with the doctor.
Well, exactly. The doctors have the theoretical knowledge, and they should be able to tie things together that don't necessarily make sense to everyone else. But if you want somebody to start an IV, don't ask the doctor.
Yeah.
Get a nurse or a technician that does it every day, because they're going to do it nice and smooth, and the doctor's going to bungle the job. My next older brother is a doctor, and he says exactly that to patients. They'll say, well, can you start the IV, doc? And he'll go, look, don't get me to do it, because that's going to hurt like hell. Let's get this nurse that does this every day, and it's going to be nice and smooth.
Yeah. I believe it.
All right, so we also have position-related currencies. So advancement, giving somebody a task or an assignment that can get them better visibility so that they might get a promotion. What could it hurt? Giving recognition to your people. I took over one job where, as manager, where the previous manager, everything that he would talk to the boss about, he had done, right? And this was a pretty big project. When I took over and the director, who was my boss, came down, I took him around to every project, and I said, look, over here, Oscar and Carlos have been putting together this plan, and I think you're gonna like it, and I gave them a chance to talk about it, and doing that really cemented my position with all of these guys who weren't too sure about how I was gonna be as a manager. They had been working with me for a while, but they didn't know how I was gonna be as manager. So giving them a chance to shine in front of the director, they were really excited, and it made them look good, and by them looking good, it made me look good.
Yeah.
So that also goes into our next point, which is visibility. A chance for everybody to be known by the people that are eventually going to get to decide on promotion, raises, things of this other situation. I mean, I introduce everybody. I've been known to introduce people that are married to each other.
Before marriage or after marriage?
After they've been married. Just not knowing that they, because the woman kept their maiden name, or, you know, other situations like that. Now, of course, part of that is my mother raised me to be a Southern gentleman, and, you know, that kind of formal introduction thing is it's a whole deal in the South.
So how would you feel when they said, "Oh, we're married"? How would it make you feel after you introduced them?
Well, I'm harder to embarrass than most, so I didn't feel bad about that.
I would be so embarrassed. I'd hide under a rock.
And networks and contacts. We should always work on developing our networks. And I'm kind of more old school. I don't have a Rolodex, but I have a tray of cards. And at times, people have said, have asked me, "Hey, do you know how to get in contact with so-and-so?" Man, I'll dig through my cards. Okay, here's this card. In our modern world, being able to network, having contacts in various industries or different places can make a big difference in our ability to get things done. All right, so we can also have inspiration related currencies. The vision thing, as George H.W. Bush once said, sometimes people are involved in a project and they just think of it as being employed. They don't think of the larger implications of this project. You know, is this a project that is going to be great for the company, is going to be great for the people involved in it, is going to be great for our country? We have to be able to communicate that vision of why what we're involved in is important. What is the larger significance, as they say here?
I'll be right back.
Well, damn it. Now I've got no one to act to. Excellence is another inspiration-related currency. The chance to be excellent, to do great things, is always one that is significant for people. Staying ethically correct. Sometimes it's more important to do the right thing than it is to do the thing right. And we must remember that that's an important idea, that having ethics, showing that you're going to do things ethically, is very important. Okay, relationship related currencies. too bad you missed those last two. I was inspirational. Relationship-related currencies. Well, one thing is acceptance. If a lot of people feel alienated in our modern world, and often our worker bees, if I may so describe them, are people who, from our point of view, may be a little bit on the peculiar side. But being accepting of their little peculiarities, God knows I've got peculiarities that people have to put up with. Being accepting of them, being friends with them makes a big difference. Personal support, we always want to give backing to our guys and to all the people that we have relationships with. We can never truly know what somebody else is going through, even when, well, for example, a friend has cancer. Well, I had cancer once upon a time, but I don't even presume that I know exactly what they're going through. I may have gone through some of the same things, but these things are so personal. They affect you so differently for different people. And understanding, listening to others' concerns and issues. Listening is becoming a lost art. When you listen, really listen. If you watch people when they talk, a lot of times, with the time they should be listening, what they're actually doing is thinking about what they're going to say next. The time you are talking is just the time that they're using to get ready with their next statement. Really listen to people. Take the information on board. And personal related currencies, well, there's challenge and learning. People, some people are very afraid of challenges. But a lot of people really embrace that. They want the challenge. They want the chance to learn. They want the chance to show what they can do. And giving them that chance is going to make them feel happier, feel better about themselves. Ownership and involvement. One of the biggest mistakes that managers make is they talk about a project being their project and not our project. Right?
Yeah.
Give everyone that sense of belonging, that it matters that they are there. And gratitude. All we've got to do is thank people for doing things. And not sarcastically, although I have been accused of that before, but giving them the chance to really do something to, and then to say thank you for doing that. You went above and beyond on this project. All right. So social network building, we want to understand our stakeholder dependencies. So from our project team's perspective, we want to know whose cooperation are we going to need? Whose agreements or approvals are we going to need? Whose opposition would keep us from doing our project? Right? So these are all going to be important. From our stakeholders' perspective, they're going to be worried about what is the relationship between our team and the people that our team is going to depend on. Are they going to be able to cooperate? Do they work well together? Or do they have a mark on their report card that says does not work and play well with others? Exactly where are we sitting with that?
So, I have a question for you. If you're a project manager and you have to embrace all these relationships and you have a peculiar team member who rather is not so much not willing to work with others but does superior working by him or herself, do you let them work by themselves even though it's a team? Because if you, I'm just thinking like when you're talking about all these different dynamics that you should be thinking about, there's people in this world who are very talented, and some of them tend, not all, but there's few and far between that will exceed expectation because they're working by themselves. However, they get dinged with that does not work well with others.
You bring up a great point. One of the great things about human beings is they're not all alike. And sometimes that can be frustrating because you can't find the handle for how you make this person work the best. I remember what one of my mentors used to say, which is, we want to work to make our weaknesses our strengths so that our strengths become our weaknesses. So if we have somebody like that, first of all, I try and find where people fit together well. Right, there are natural team groupings at times that you start seeing immediately. Right? Sometimes it's because people are already friends, although sometimes if people are friends, they actually don't work well together because they start kidding around and fooling around and nothing's getting done. So I try and see what are the strengths of each person so that they can be put in a place where they can do the best job. But I also try and encourage people to grow. When we have that one person that really likes to work by themselves and doesn't really like to work with others, I try and give them little opportunities to grow out of their shell a bit. And because often that's based on not liking people and not trusting people. You know, so try and give them the opportunities to be able to learn more about people and get to know and trust at least some people.
Okay.
All right, so another thing from the stakeholders' perspective is how are they looking at our project? Right? Is this just another thing happening for them, or is this something that is really important to them? And our success means everything to their future with the company, or the company's future, whatever. What is our relationship with the stakeholders? It can be very awkward if we have a difficult relationship with our project sponsors or the customers. You know, sometimes they grow to know and love us, and sometimes not so much. And do we have sources of influence with those stakeholders? I've been in the position where I actually have been better friends with the wife of a stakeholder than with the stakeholder. Of course, you want to be careful how that works, because you know, you don't want to be suddenly accused of adultery or anything of this nature, but as much as possible, we want to do everything we can to have a good relationship with our stakeholders, whether that's the top management, whether that's our project sponsor, whether that's our customer, whether that's people from government agencies that are overseeing what we're doing. We want to have the best relationships we can. All right, so here we have a stakeholder map for a particular project. In this case, it's financial software, right? So we have the project to install that software here, right? So you've got all kinds of people that are stakeholders. The information technology manager, obviously, he's going to be a big stakeholder, because if this software doesn't work well, it's very glitchy, he's got a big amount of influence riding on whether it works well or not. The vendor of the software obviously has a big stake, because they not only want to sell this software here, they want to be able to point to this as a success when they're talking to other people about buying the software. Shipping is obviously involved in financial transactions within the organization, so they have a stake in this being working well. Top management obviously has a stake. right? Everything needs to run smoothly so that they look good. Inventory, yeah, I've noticed they didn't put anybody down as such. They didn't say inventory manager or, but obviously that's part of dealing with the financial software. The billing and receipts guys, man, they've got a huge stake in this working well. The information technology director, we already have an information technology manager. Very often, depending on the size of the company, those may be the same thing. Right? And they want it to go well, getting that put in, having that work well, because they don't want to have to be sending all their guys down there at frequent intervals because the software is not working properly. And obviously purchasing is also going to be a huge stakeholder in this. All right, so management by wandering around is I want to say that this was first introduced in the 1970s, or 1950s, not 70s. 70-year-old, yes, comes back to me now. And the idea is one of the things that computers do is convince people that because they can read numbers on the screen, they know everything that's going on. Nothing could be further from the truth. You want to spend as much time as you can wandering around looking at things. For one thing, you might find out people are lying to you. They're telling you things are happening that aren't actually happening. You know, you say, hey, is such and such installed? Oh yeah, no problems, working perfectly, right? You go around and you're there and it's like, they got pieces all over the floor. People are wandering around saying, do you think this fits with this? Bloody hell. So, the more time you can spend in face-to-face interaction, the better relationships you're going to build with them. And that's extremely important as far as figuring out, knowing what's going on, and finding out what are the problems, right? The manager of a certain area may be telling you, oh yeah, everything's great, we have no problems. You go, you're wandering around that shop, and you're asking the guys, well, what do you think of this new system? And they're going, oh my God, I cannot believe how hard this is to use, how difficult it is to get good results, etc. When the manager's been telling you, oh, it's great, fantastic, never done anything better. All right, so that brings us to some of the characteristics of good, effective project managers. So, first of all, they initiate contact with our key stakeholders, right? They don't wait for the top management to call them up and say, hey, Jones, what the hell is going on down there? No, they've been careful to send in their detailed reports, to talk to these guys when a problem comes up, keeping them informed. an effective project manager also anticipates potential problems. This is one that has caused me to piss off many people here at NTU. Because I'll say, we'll be doing something and I'll say, well, what happens if this happens? Oh, it won't happen, man. Oh, okay. Well, what about if this goes? Right, so, but we should always be thinking of what are our potential problems, right? That's part of that managing the risk in our projects, is we're not only looking and patting ourselves on the back for things that are going right, we're looking and seeing what can go wrong and what are we going to do if it does. Of course, we want to provide encouragement. You know, the boss that's kind of sealed up in his office all the time, he never talks to anyone. The only time he does talk to anyone is when he's chewing them out for doing something wrong. Man, that's just a horrible way to manage and to live, as far as I'm concerned. So we want to always reinforce what are our objectives and what is our vision of the project, right? It's part of that vision-related currency. We want people to see not only what are we trying to do with this project, how does it fit into the bigger picture? How does this make our company a better place to be, to work, and hopefully, how is this going to make a better world for us to live in? And intervene to resolve conflicts and prevent stalemates. One of the things you can really learn from being out interacting and listening is you start to get clues. Oh, well, you know, Fred and Joe aren't really getting along, right? No one may say that to you directly, right? But you just start to get that feeling, right? And we always want to do what we can to stop conflict and resolve it as quickly as we can. Conflict is not going to help anyone. And sometimes I've had to just say, you know what? You guys don't have to love each other. You have to get along and work together here so that we can get this done. You know, sometimes it can be as simple as that. Hopefully it doesn't go to the extent of having to get HR involved and, oh my God. You know, I have had to fire people before for harassment, for even sexual harassment, for not being able to get along with others. Nobody wins in that situation. All right, so for our project to be successful, I'm sorry, was that a question?
No.
Okay, just casual hand waving, I get it.
Yeah.
Well, as the old song reminds us, put your hands in the air and wave them like you just don't care.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
All right, so for our project to be successful, we really need top management support. There are times we're gonna be without that top management support, but that makes it very likely our project will fail. So, if we have that support, hopefully that means we have an appropriate budget for what we're trying to do, that we have responsiveness when we have something that was not anticipated come up, and that gives a signal to our company or organization about the importance of cooperation. Of course, part of that is going to be motivating our project team. We want our top management to look not only in favor of us, but also the whole team. So, if your team members come with unreasonable demands, or if top management has unreasonable demands, it can go either way. We want to do everything we can to turn those into reasonable demands. I know when I worked in theater, we often had the problem that non-technical people would just assume that we could make all kinds of things happen, even if they defy the laws of God and man and physics. So sometimes you would have to inject the note of reality into the whole thing. Being on good terms with top management can mean we can get those additional resources that we need to be able to either finish on time or ahead of schedule, and get them to recognize the accomplishments of our team members. So our project sponsor needs to be the one who is our umbrella when upper management starts raining on us, that is able to intercept a lot of these unreasonable requests and intercept a lot of stuff that just really interferes with us doing the project. All right, so leading by example is always a very effective way of being the leader. And it's rare where there's a project where you work all by yourself, and so you're only leading yourself, so you don't need to worry so much. So when we say leading by example, one thing is showing the standards of performance. I am naturally a bit of an OCD type person, so I tend to show up early, and when needed, work late. Kind of a nose to the grindstone person. You also want to be a problem solver, right? It can be very discouraging when a problem comes up, you turn to the boss and they're kind of like, well, you guys will be able to handle it, good luck. What is that? Being able to prioritize what is important and what isn't important is very important in a leader. Showing that you can cooperate not only with your team, but with others, that sets a tone that that obviously is going to be important in getting things done. Giving your team a sense of urgency is important.
Like, how, like, what do you mean urgency?
Well, let's say that we've got 3 weeks to finish our project. And everybody's kind of like, oh, well, maybe we'll get it done, maybe we won't.
Oh.
Well, what kind of attitude is that? Not one that leads to getting it done on time. Right? Now, it can't just be, all right, everybody get in there and work harder, right? But we have to find little ways of showing our tasks are urgent, we've got to get this done on time, it's important. So it's part of that vision thing, right? This is important, we need to get it done quickly so that we're creating what needs to be created. And ethics. Do the thing, do the right thing. Don't do the thing right, as it were. We want to be sure that we're not cutting corners because we want to get something done, but that we're doing it by the rules, by the ethical bounds, and pardon me. And that you can do things by the rules. There are lots of people that are willing to cut corners, ethically and morally speaking. But that kind of thinking leads to, kind of a Nazi, it's the end, not the means situation.
Kind of like a dictatorship?
I'm sorry?
Like a dictatorship? Like,
Not
I know it. I know it's wrong, but you guys have to do it.
Well, there certainly can be that aspect of it, but look, it's important to play by the rules and to value people more than just getting something done. That's kind of my ethical philosophy in a nutshell, right? People are important, and very often you see managers that are willing to trample on people's feelings and treat people poorly so that they can get something done. But to me, that's just not a right way to behave. Those bastards and bastardettes. You know, because we must be equal.
Yeah.
All right, I am going to call it a class there. Are there any last questions before we break up? Our brave band. Well, hearing none, I'm going to say, yes, I'm sorry? Okay, there was a random noise from Zoom. It sounded like somebody's child is on the loose. All right, so we will resume this 3:30 next Thursday. Until then, have fun. And I already posted the homework and the quiz. The quiz will be open on Thursday. The quizzes are always just open on Thursday. So if you wait till Friday, too late. All right, have fun. Bye now.
Okay. I'll see you on Thursday.
Can hardly wait.
Have a good evening.
Take it easy now. Have fun.
Thank you.
Everybody run, the kamikaze pirates got to go. Yeah.